into the world? I know it's been in festivals and stuff, but now it's finally getting released. How does it feel, Elric?
Uh, it is nerve-wracking, but I'll say like I'm not gonna you never say you don't care how it's perceived because that's not what it means, but it's like I think doing festivals is actually great to thicken your skin to be ready. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
if this had gone straight to Shutter, I would have been a total mess because the first negative thing you hear, you're going to be like, "Oh my God." But when you start to see a balance and realize, "Oh, that's just anything you create, art, movie, is going to
Oh,
be
yes.
received. Like somebody's going to fall in love and somebody's going to be like, I don't know what you're doing." And so the festival's been great for that to connect with people and see and kind of almost understand what you've made because when you're making it, you
Yeah.
understand the story, but you don't things like themes. It's like, yeah, we had themes when we were writing it, but you don't think about them when you're shooting a movie. Like I didn't
No.
once think about a theme when we're in production. You're just too busy trying to get everything every day. So now that we're there, I'm really, it's exciting, and it's exciting to also do something a little different because we're going straight to Shutter. It to we decided to get a film print made, and so we're now doing these pop up. We're going to have our premiere tomorrow at the New Beverly in LA, and then we're going to IFC Center in New York for one-offs, and it's going to do a few one-offs, and that's made me re-excited in a way when you kind of just as you start to get over your own thing that you've been stuck in for so long, you can go, oh, cool, this is a little different. So pretty stoked
Yeah,
about that
that's
part,
so
but
cool. Wait, congrats.
I
That's
can't
awesome.
imagine
New
for them.
Beverly. That's so
Yeah, well, I do their
cool.
podcast for the last few years, so it was like
Oh, yeah, that's right.
at
Obviously.
least it was kind
Sorry.
of an easy, obvious like ask. But I am curious what the actors because like for me, the difference between our journeys is like they've been away from this somewhat, doing other projects and other roles, and I've just been, in post perpetually for 2 years or whatever. So I'm curious.
And yeah, and Ben and Blue, I would love to hear about why you were attracted to this film. And I can understand it's like it's got that millennial ennui, like sadness to it. But I'm curious, starting with Blue, like what about this film was so interesting for you as an actor? You're on mute, by the way. I'm sorry. Just
Okay. Hi. Sorry.
no, you're good.
Um, I just really liked the character. I liked Alex. I like the idea of like playing someone who didn't talk for the first, I don't know, 20 pages. If I could just play silent characters, like I would do that, you know? Um, so it was just like just reading the script, I thought it would be like a really fun exercise in like acting, and I never done like I hadn't done an indie film yet, and now I'm obsessed with them. Like it's just like
Aren't they
so
fun
nice.
though? They are really fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's so nice to just like be working with just like people who are your friends. Like everybody, for the most part, is like there simply because they care. And there's just like a lot more like creative involvement. And like I like all the little things that go wrong all the time and you're rushing around, like, it's just like really like hands-on. And I find it's you can really think about your performance in different ways. Like you're not going and sitting in a trailer all day, and like
Yeah.
it's like there's just something that's just so like I don't know. It's just like what filmmaking should be for me, I think. Like I like just feeling like no one is like more special than the next person on set. And I just like this like feeling of camaraderie, and it's just like fun. Because then you can also there's less pressure to like have a performance that's like because you can't fail on like certain projects. Like not that you want to fail on like an independent film because actually your performance is going to be like the key thing that carries the film because like a bad performance in an indie film will tank the whole thing, really, It will. It's like no matter how good it is, it's like bad acting. Bad acting can almost like be kind of held up in like, bigger films because everything around it is like
Yeah.
great, and even then it's
Yeah.
like, but in like a smaller film, it's like everything is geared for the performance. So it's like you have to be good, but also you can get weird with it. Like
Yeah.
I feel like doing this movie kind of taught me to be more naturalistic since I'd done like a lot of TV and like getting to like try out how I actually want to act was like really fun opportunity. And I could sense that like when I read the script. I was like, oh, I think I can like really try out like what I always envisioned for myself in acting, which is like much more naturalistic and like quiet.
That's so awesome. That's gotta be so cool for you as an actor, especially if you've been acting and being able to do something new like that has just gotta be such an awesome experience. That's so cool. And Ben, what about you? What about the script was attractive for you and the character you play? Because, boy, oh boy, you play a very interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, it wasn't the character that got me. It was just the script in general that I was like, damn,
Cool.
this thing is so cool. Like, and I thought Alex was so interesting as a character, and there were all these kind of just the writing and the descriptions of what was happening. I was like, this is so like this is just so someone who gets it, like it's just written perfectly, and I think even some stuff that maybe is not in the film, there was this shot described of a pair of shoes by a door and light changing behind the door, and this thing of like, I think Alex is going like uh experiencing the same thing so often that she's starting to lose what day it is, or that kind of thing. And I was just like, it was just written so well, and the thing with the light, and I was like, this is so cool, like yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and then between Ben, oh, sorry, were you saying
Oh no, I was
something?
just gonna say about the details. It's funny because like when you then put a rough cut together or whatever, some people would be like, "Oh, just cut the first 5 minutes, get into your movie." And it's like, the things that you have to fight for even when you're making an indie. I had to
Yeah,
keep telling people like the first few minutes is the whole point of the movie.
Yeah.
Like if you cut the
yeah,
repetition, if you cut the shoes by the door, if you cut her lawn wee, which you were as you were just saying, then you can't understand her. Because if I started it at the date and she just starts talking and is kind of existential, then it's just a character's existential. But if you see that the first few minutes of this are what kind of set you up, now it's not. It's not maybe the comfort of every horror fan, right? Like watching a movie, they might. I know if I watch Amazon ones now, I always call or Hulu, I always comment that somebody's head explodes in the first like 30 seconds because everyone's so scared no one will keep watching. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they'll keep watching for at least a few minutes. So I just think sometimes that you have to end up being truthful, even if sometimes you're at odds with that when you're actually cutting or whatever. You have to go back to the idea. What is the idea? And it's like that is the idea. You have to experience Alex's world, otherwise you've ruined the thing. Other things change
yeah,
quite a lot along the way, just rhythm and editing wise, and but
yeah.
the idea itself is the thing you have to kind of still hunt for.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about creating intimacy on set because it's obviously is a movie about intimacy, but there is this really awesome chemistry between your characters, Ben and Blue. And, it's an indie movie, you're shooting fast, you might not have a lot of time to rehearse. So what was it like for the two of you to create this, I'll just say chemistry between the two characters and that becomes intoxicating while you're watching?
I don't know.
Or were you just lucky to have like a cool
No,
acting
yeah, I
partner,
mean,
which is
like,
obviously like a valid, as valid
I always like to say that I could have chemistry with anyone, but no, I mean, honestly, I think we have like not similar dispositions, but we just kind of like got along. I mean, like in a friendly way, like pretty immediately when we met. Like we're both kind of easy go. I mean, I'm not like I'm like I'm an actress, so I'm not that easygoing, but I'm easygoing enough. I'm like surprisingly easygoing for an actor. But so I think we were just like kind of like, I don't know, we just hang out and it
Hell
just
yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. It's like it's so professional and like, it's funny, I'm just like remember the thing where you had to like hold me on the board, like stuff like that. Like that's just like and I'm just there like topless and everyone's like trying to like kind of create this like weird stunt for the camera. And
Yeah.
it's like it gets so like familial and friendly and it's like easy
Yeah.
to have chemistry, I think.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Cool.
the I guess the game is to show like we're trying to act like we have chemistry, like
Yeah. Yeah.
like the chemistry there has to be a certain real amount of chemistry, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's the goal is to make it look that way. So hopefully that's
Well,
what
it
it
looks
looks
that way
like.
for sure.
Great.
Did
Well,
y'all
every
work
time I
with an
saw them
int
net talking, they seemed very chill. When they
Yeah.
weren't acting, they just looked like they were listening to each other and like creating a little pocket of something. So for me, it was like that makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Did you have an intimacy coordinator you guys worked with at all on this one?
No.
No, we could
No.
afford it. I
Okay.
mean, just because of the scale, but like partly, I mean,
Indie.
if we were forced to, like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if they, you know, want every movie to have an intimacy coordinator, then there needs to be something in place for movies to have more money and
Oh,
funding
absolutely.
Yeah.
too, you
That
know.
one right
But
there. That one right there.
I will say I don't think we could have achieved what we did and how far we can take it without like we literally have like a 15, 20 year stunt person helping us
Yeah, and
orchestrate
that
all of
was
that.
the thing too. Actually, like it really did. Honestly, there were a lot of things that we did that I did feel like genuinely so much more, not like so much more comfortable doing because I never felt uncomfortable ever, but just feeling like really safe. Like I think it really did help because it was like again, it was like it was my first time doing any kind of scenes like that. Like really,
Oh,
like
yeah. Okay.
and so having been there, just like having like we were able to like it was actually really nice, I think, like having been there to do it, like being like a stunt man too, because it was like it really, since it was my first time, got me into thinking like this really is like it's like physical, it's like stunt work, really. You know, it's
Yeah. Oh,
like
that's,
trying to
oh,
figure out how to
yeah.
like move to make it trick the camera. It's the same thing as doing like a fake slap, you know, and like it like I think actually like for it being my first time doing scenes like that, it was really great. But and you know, a lot of like intimacy coordinators also like do like kind of stunt things like in like you know, it's like they really kind of like mixes a bit, you know.
Cool. No, that's awesome
Well,
though.
also
That's
it wasn't,
awesome.
yeah. It wasn't like I think it would be different if it was just, and again, this is a you have to have seen it to understand this, but the love scenes aren't normal love scenes. And so if it was two people in
Yeah.
bed
Yes.
making love, then I think that's when it's like, okay, that's somebody who just to protect everyone's rights. But this was like literally, okay, we're gonna be, we're gonna be lifting somebody on a board. Then we have a giant
Yeah, like half the real
crane
love
going up
scenes
and
were
down.
like stunt scenes, really, you know.
Yeah. They were like they
Oh,
were effectively
cool.
like a
Okay.
fight scene. It would be like doing a fight scene or like I keep bringing it up, but at the Hitchcock quote, he says, "Film your murders like love scenes, and your love scenes like murders." And that's what I
Yeah.
circled before I started filming. I was like, okay, if the love scenes are more like looking at a murder set piece, the way we shoot them have to kind of echo that. And that was, and so then we're all there and we're working out how it's going to look and feel. Ben became, very, very helpful with just some of the, just also like helping mobilize a crew to understand a stunt. So I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think it was quite like it was intimacy still, but it was also something else. It was just interesting. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
thanks, Ben,
That's so
for being
interesting
here.
though. I had never thought about like sex scenes being like stunts, but they really are. Like that is really interesting to hear about that
At the end of the
experience.
day, it's just bodies mashing up against bodies. So it's really is the same stuff. Like,
It's true
and then
though. That's
just
such a good way to
figuring
put it.
out that's
He's
the
such
I
a
mean, and that's
romantic,
the
you know?
yeah. Well, that's the art of it is like you can do something in the room, shoot it 100 different ways, and it's not going to look like what's happening in the room, So, like, the thing that
Yeah.
is just understanding that what you think is happening might not be in lens, and just like being able to make sure what's happening in the lens is what you're trying to tell the story. So it doesn't really matter what's actually happening over there.
Yeah. Cool. And I'm pivoting from intimacy, but Alec, I love the music in this between the score and then also just the music that Alex listens to. And I wanted to hear more about your process behind that and working with your composer and a music supervisor about getting all of this music to create the soundscape for this movie, which is, I think, really good, especially with like the noir, like neo-noir vibes with the score as well. So I just wanted to hear about that process.
Yeah, so it's like obviously we made one mistake I think where everyone's like shoot all your budget, don't worry about post, just get it all on the screen. And so I actually took that literally, probably needed every cent of it, but then you get into post and go, oh shit, like now I have nothing. And so it took a lot longer to get what we needed to do. My editor Star, he had been talking about a composer for a very long time, Michael Krasner, who's part of this thing called Box Set Ensemble. He records a lot of the biggest like indie bands. He's like a lot of people that you would recognize their albums. He's recorded it as well as being a composer. And what one of the other it's not a mistake, but something that'll happen on every film, as you know, like you're a filmmaker too. You lay down temp stuff, but you can get overly attached. So this movie was almost
Uh-huh.
entirely
Oh God, I hate
yeah.
that when
It's
you
a
get
it's a
overly attached to
dangerous
the temp
step.
music.
Yeah, so for me,
Yeah.
this movie was actually just Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, the Giallo film, basically almost the entire score of that. And then we happened to watch Clute again while we're editing. And then suddenly the Clute flourish became she has a
Oh
Clute
my God.
haircut now, which I love. She's got the Jane Fonda cut. But it became the score. And and it really suited it. Like it really, because I always thought of it had a almost like a giallo in the back of my head. It's like not the literal black gloves and stuff, but it had some DNA of that. And so you start listening to your movie through, and you're like, oh, now I'm attached to this, and now it's a little dangerous when you then send that to the composer because you don't want to influence
Yeah.
them, but you also need to give them some indication. So it took a while, I think, from then for them to. I know he was really trying to get away from the little ding. And eventually they keep going and they keep going and producing. They're very improv-y and they just like literally send you like, here's 4 hours of music. And you're like, where are we meant to sync it up? And they're just like, just go for it. And we're like, okay. So it was a process of amazing stuff coming in, and you just like drive and listen to the music going, man, this is like amazing. I have to go. And so eventually the DNA of the film starts to come in focus. But it did take a while because it was, I felt like we're still in the world of the original, the stuff you placed temporarily, and then it became this very somber, especially the last piece and the first and last piece were very late, and they felt like what like a funeral procession. And I think he found the theme
Mm.
of the film. Like I think he at the end discovered, oh no, this is important, and changed out the start music to feel like even at the start where we see this person walking down a hallway with the phone, there was some sort of um, there's something somber and sad about where this is going to head, and he I think he really found that emotion through the way Michael Kreiser and Robin Vinning is the person who was doing it with him, and then in terms of the songs, it was we have a music supervisor who helped find some of the tracks, but Coco Moria, she does the pop songs in it. So you hear about four of them in there,
Yeah.
and she's really good. She's really good. She was a songwriter, has written for a lot of like pop stars and stuff, but her own stuff I've always really liked it. And so they used it for one of the tracks for the trailer, which was really fun. And I
Oh.
had an idea a couple of years ago before, like right before we actually shot, to do an all female. It was like almost like a mixtape of the soundtrack would be all female artists, just like coming up with an idea that would make sense for what the character listens to. But then as you go, I realized that the key song she has to listen to probably had to be a male vocalist, just because it was kind of a siren for something that it had to kind of represent
Okay.
Ben's character when he's not there in the film. And
Yeah.
so these things
Cool.
are all processed, but whether any of it would be stuff Blue's character would actually listen to, I don't know.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for chatting about the Dead Thing. This was awesome just to get to pick your brains a little bit, and congratulations on it coming to Shutter. It's amazing. Perfect date movie, guys.
Found your day.